she gets ghost white and she goes, "That's not your time capsule. That's my dead husband." He drops it and runs.
What does New Hampshire witches, the punk rock scene, and getting knocked out by your uncle have in common? Welcome to the world of Granite State Punk, an indie comic series by Travis Gibb. Today we're diving deep into the origin of the series, its creation, and where it's going next. We've got 3 exclusive interviews with the creators themselves, so get out your Gencos and get ready to dive into the pit with me. Let's dive in. Before we get into today's video, I want to talk to you about our sponsor, Rolling Tales Online Comic Shop. If you want to score every comic, manga, or RPG book you care about, Rolling Tales subscription service has you covered. It's like your own personal pull list. RT orders your favorite titles every time they're released, holds them for you, and keeps your collection tight. They even bundle pre-orders with updated solicitations every week, so you're always in the loop and never chasing covers. Oh, and subscribers get a 10% discount on nearly everything. Visit rtpop.com/subscriptions and sign up. Now back to today's video. Meet Zeke, a continuous down on his luck 20-something punk rocker living in New Hampshire. Zeke's mouth has gotten him into trouble since he was a kid, and he knows it. Always curious, he has tried to seek answers about the world around him, knowing full well the outside world really doesn't want to do the same. Zeke turned to punk for those exact same reasons. Punk doesn't want to conform to society. It wants to break out of it. But Zeke has a problem. Well, more than one, but let's try to focus. Zeke comes from a magical family. His parents and relatives are all magic wielders, and so is Zeke, if he can manage to control his ability. One night, while at the latest punk concert, Zeke runs into his Uncle Gert. Although not his favorite relative, Zeke takes the opportunity to ask for some advice about stopping his powers from manifesting. Because Zeke doesn't give a shit about magic. He wants it out of his life, completely. The stress and anxiety of running into his uncle begins to manifest as magical entities start appearing at the concert, which will soon become a problem. Gert's immediate solution? Knock Zeke unconscious. Zeke awakens in a graveyard, his Uncle Gert digging up an old grave. But this isn't just any old grave. It's the final resting place of Goody Cole, a woman so infamous in the 17th century that she was kicked out of the state for a while. When she returned, the county elders built her a home as a makeshift prison. When she died at an exceptionally old age, they drove a stake through her chest with a horseshoe added around her neck for good measure. With Gert's guidance, Zeke awakens the old witch from her resting place. Enraged, Goody's spirit decides to take vengeance on the town that treated her harshly. She leaves the graveyard to seek her revenge on the unsuspecting townfolks of modern-day Hampton. Zeke is at a loss for words. He asks Gert what to do. Gert reminds Zeke that his powers are manifesting Goody. He can control the situation if he gains control of his powers. Meanwhile, in town, Goody has begun her vengeance tour. Zeke finds her and unleashes his plan. Sober and straight edge for years, Zeke decides the only way to get rid of Goody Cole is to render himself unconscious in the most painless way possible, by very quickly downing as much alcohol as he can. His makeshift plan works, and Goody drifts back into the ether, while Zeke slips into unconsciousness. The story continues in issue number 2. This issue was written by indie comic creator Travis Gibb, with interiors by Patrick Burmeyer, and lettering by Jerome Gagnon, all of whom sat down with me for an interview about Granite State Punk.
Hi, my name is Travis Gibb. I am a creator. I write several different comics, best known for Granite State Punk, Queens of Judas, Cthulhu Invades, and most recently, the Summit Universe. So we just created a thing over there. But yeah, I've done a whole bunch of stuff. Ringo nominated a couple of times. I do a lot of books. I work for also a lot of other publishers. So lots and lots of hats when it comes to writing, publishing, or making books.
Hey, I'm Patrick Burmeyer. I was the line artist and colorist for Granite State Punk.
My name is Jerome Gagnon. I'm a graphic designer, comic book letterer from Montreal. I've been working on comic books for the past 10 years.
The origins of Granite State Punk.
I listen to talk radio in the morning. And this guy talked about going to his childhood home and knocking on the door. And he went to the home and said, "Hey, I buried a time capsule here in the backyard, and I would love to dig it up." And so he asked the lady, and the lady's like, "Yeah, that's not a problem." So he went in the backyard, dug up this box, brings the box to the woman, says, "Hey, I found the box. Would you like to open it with me?" And she gets ghost white. And she goes, "That's not your time capsule. That's my dead husband." He drops it and runs. So that was the inspiration. So all right, so that's origin one of the story. Obviously, there's no punk rock, there's no New Hampshire because I'm in Florida, there's none of that. Second part of the story, my grandmother dies. She dies natural causes, nothing bad, but I got left a good chunk of money. Patrick was someone who I always wanted to work with, but I couldn't afford his rates. So I was like, honey, talked to my wife. I was like, I want to make one book, just one issue, just the way I want to make it with the art team I want to make it. I had this idea and I pitched the Bones idea to her. And I was like, I want to make it. I want to make it with this guy. I think it'd be really good. I'd like to add a little punk rock element because I like punk rock, and that's it. So I didn't. No plan in New Hampshire and anything. But then when I started writing it, I decided that I was going to put it in New Hampshire to honor my grandmother because she gave me the money. So there's a lot there, but yeah, it's not just one idea. It's several events that led up to it being what it is.
I'm not sure where we first got connected. I'm pretty sure he just reached out to me and was interested in doing, like, he'd been thinking about doing Granite State Punk for a while. It's really been a passion project for him. And I think that he had seen some of my previous stuff. I did a bunch of issues of this book called Discordia with Chris Jerome, which was kind of like an alt history 1950s sort of like horror sci-fi, and just reached out to me and he was like, hey, I've been wanting to do this book called Granite State Punk, and it's about this guy. It's kind of got monsters and magic, but it's also supposed to be really punk rock. Like that's like a big part of it. And he was just, I really like your stuff, and I think that the vibe would be perfect for this book. And I guess the rest is history, as they say.
Well, actually, on Facebook, we are part of the same Facebook groups about comic book creators and stuff like that. And he was looking for a letterer for his first series. So he did a few short stories before that, but we kind of started it all together at some point because that was his first official series that we launched together.
With his team of Burmeyer and Gagnon in place, Gibb next relied heavily on his wife, Heather, to be a sounding board and editor on the project.
Because Granite State Punk is so personal to me, I read it to her. This is out of all my scripts, this is the only one I do. I literally read it to her because I want Zeke. It's very important for the verbiage of Zeke. Zeke is let's say Vervine. Zeke is probably the wrong word. Granite State Punk, for it to work, it needs everybody doing their best, right? I need Patrick to leave me room to do big walls of text and not make it look bad. I need Jerome to do masterful lettering and punk rock style. So it's a book that really needs us to all fire on all cylinders. And the same thing in my writing. I write a diatribe. The edits of that book is insane because I will write everything I want to say, and then some things got to be cut out. But I write it out, even if I know it's going to be cut down or edited down to fit on the page. So Patrick knows my vision. So Heather knows my vision. And even when they edit it down, like those emotions of what I say are in there, and expressing what it needs to be. So Heather gets me to verbally say it to her, and then we go through it, and I do my little rants. I do like a show, right, of the Zeke rants, because it's a fun book to read out loud, and it's a fun book to share with people.
Building the world of GSP.
I think Travis and I had more back and forth maybe than on most projects even, and I think that just goes to show how invested he was in making it and making the book. So yeah, I mean, it's really cold turkey. You just get the script and then you read it, and then usually you can do a few designs back and forth. Generally, writers will have at least one or two characters or like locations, monsters or whatever, that needs to be a specific way, or at least that they have stronger feelings about, and then maybe you'll get a few reference photos and then go from there. I mean, I guess Granite State Punk is a little bit unique in that it's based in the real world, and so there are real places that needed to be depicted in the book. And so I think that was kind of the first time I'd really done like on the previous stuff that I'd worked on, it was very like sci-fi or fantasy, and so it's just, you know, it's a grungy warehouse, or, you know, whatever it is, or dark spooky woods or something. But this had to be like specific streets and specific buildings, and that was pretty important to Travis from the beginning, is that these places matched where they're, you know, where they're based. And the original script, there would be like a specific, there'd be, I mean, he was doing Google Images too, but there would be a decent amount of photo reference, maybe like 2 or 3 images for each place. But it is funny because I felt like I would get stuck in trying to just draw that image sometimes, like whatever that Google image was, especially because sometimes they're pretty striking. And so it's like, oh, that's a pretty good composition, so I want to include that. But inevitably, when you're doing comics, you have to draw the same thing, but then flip it around and then draw it from the top, or whatever. And so I did end up having to go in and do some of my own aerial research and get sort of a 360 view of some of these things.
Well, we do have early discussions about the projects, what's coming up. He creates a bunch of different stories. So he basically, we have a discussion. He tells me about what he has in mind, what he wants to do. Most of the time, he already has an artist in mind. But we exchange a little bit on that. Usually I design the logo for him, so we can have we can direct the artist for the covers and stuff like that. And since we work on, we do Kickstarters, we need some pages and some things to show before we launch the campaign. But this gives the artist the time to produce the art. Once the campaign is done and the art is done, then I put the final touch. I do the other lettering for the other pages that aren't done yet, and put it together, prepare everything to print. Meanwhile, Travis is already moving on another project, so we always have something going on.
The origins of straight edge. Zeke is straight edge. This means he chooses to avoid alcohol, tobacco, and recreational drugs. The origin of the term has roots in punk. It originates from a 1981 song, Straight Edge, by the band Minor Threat. The band's singer, Ian MacKaye, wrote the song to express pride in not drinking or using drugs. Fans connected with the message, and it grew into a broader movement within punk culture. Zeke's hand wrappings predominantly show an X on them. This also has its origin in punk. At all ages punk shows, underage attendees often have an X marked on their hands to show they couldn't buy alcohol. Straight edge fans adopted the X as a symbol of their substance-free identity.
But obviously, I'm not straight edge. I'm drinking a Guinness right now as we talk. But a lot of people think I'm straight edge. A lot of people ask me if I'm straight edge because I understand that lifestyle. I didn't have a drink until I was 23 because I was so afraid that if I had one drink, I'm going to be doing heroin on the street. Like it was that belief. And it wasn't until one day I was just like, I am afraid of something that the majority of the planet can manage. Right. But I do understand. I've been to tons of AA meetings and all that. For me, that part of Zeke is the controlling of his power is me just understanding the alcoholic's plight, right? If I just can do this, I'm gonna be fine, and they'll get me to the next thing that I need to do instead of doing the hard thing, right? It's the easy way out. It's the making the decisions. You know, it's people only like me when I drink, right? So they drink because they wanna be in that stuff. So it's that mentality that I wanted to have Zeke, and it's kind of its own like double-edged sword, right? He has all this power inside of him. You know, Zeke is a lot like John Constantine, right? He's got the punk elements. He's got all the John Constantine. The difference between John Constantine and Zeke, because I'm very inspired by Hellblazer. If you look at my shelf, love Hellblazer. There's definitely inspirations there. Is Zeke, I promise you, I don't care how many issues of this I write, because I'm never going to stop writing it. He will never be good at magic. It's just not his thing. He doesn't care about it. It's not stuff. So his way of controlling it is just that, is immature ways of handling things as he does it. And it's part of what makes him his charm, is he is his own worst enemy. What I like about Zeke and what I like about my comic book is he hasn't solved a single one of the problems in any of the 5 issues. It's literally like accidents, rage fits. Like, it's not like there's not heroic moments. It's like, this is what I need to do to get out of the situation or to solve it for a second. Like, it's not, there's no heroics to Zeke, which is what I love about the guy. And I'm sure it's a reflection of the way I view myself. I'm sure I am not Zeke. I'm a healed, what would be, I think Zeke is my fears. And that's what I write in Zeke. Little spoiler for a future. Well, not really a spoiler. We kind of reveal it in issue 5. Zeke has a kid and he gave that kid up. He's a father. He hasn't been a father. He hasn't mentioned it in any of the issues. And we're going to explore that in the future. When I have a 22-year-old, I was living in Florida. My dad, because my dad's an alcoholic and he thinks like alcoholics, he was like, all right, just run. Come to New Hampshire. They won't find you. Like, that's my dad's solution, right? So Zeke is kind of the reflection of me if I continue to just go that path. There's parts of me that scream of who I am. You know, I'm always rethinking everything in my life and trying to do that. Zeke is definitely not me. He's kind of a prick. He doesn't respect women as much. There's a lot of Zeke that's not me.
The punk scene. New Hampshire does have a pretty vibrant punk scene, with many bars and venues hosting punk shows regularly. Places like Bad Burger, the Button Factory, the Shashkeen, and Drift Art House often have punk shows on their schedule.
Here's an interesting thing about me and punk rock. Because of the alcoholic and drug background, I wanted to blend in every circle. I was a chameleon. So I was a theater kid. I also played football. I also went to punk shows. I also went to metal kids. I also played Magic the Gathering. I played Dungeons. I needed to fit and be liked in every circle. That was super important to me. I actually love people. That's one of probably the major differences between me and Zeke. Zeke fucking hates people, where I absolutely love people and their stories and stuff like that. But what I resonated when I wanted to hang out, just hang out, it was always the punk crowd, because they're always trying to solve the world's problems. And many of them have the solution to the world's problems, but they don't want to do anything about it. And it's fascinating to me, right? You go to a punk concert now, you will see young people bring their kids to these punk shows sometimes and protect them from the pit. And it's wild to me. Like, that doesn't happen at any other concert that I go to. So all that being said, favorite punk bands, I'm a big Ramones guy, big Sex Pistols fan. I'm not going to choose between the two like most people. I'm not going to do it. They're both fucking great. I'm not going to argue. Me First and the Gimmes, Rancid. Those are kind of my big ones. Obviously, growing up in New Hampshire, we got the Queers. We got Black Flag. So those kind of the staples.
I've been to some punk shows, just maybe not ones that I haven't seen Black Flag. So but yeah, and I do really like live music. Even though I'm not, I don't know, music maybe isn't my passion in the same way as other things are, and I'm not as intimately familiar with it. I will always go to live music if given the opportunity. So even if I'm maybe not like the most knowledgeable about like what exactly that concert should look like, I knew what it should feel like, I guess, or at least what I wanted it to feel like, what maybe it should feel like for Zeke, and that's sort of what's important to then depict visually. But I looked at some pictures from concerts for sure, because the lighting is so weird, because you have all these different different colors of lights and then conflicting and blah blah blah, and then light shows and pyrotechnics or whatever. And yeah, so then it was a bit of a struggle to adapt that, but yeah, I don't know, I think it came out okay in the end.
The truth about Eunice Goody Cole. Tried for witchcraft in 1656 and again in 1673, Goody Cole was a real person who lived in the Hampton Beach area of New Hampshire in the 17th century.
So here's a true version. So ignore like a lot of stuff in the comic book because I've added some stings, and I share the good real story in there. But so Goody Cole was a woman. She was in New Hampshire, in the Hampton Beach area. It wasn't called Hampton Beach, and she was just a mean old lady. And she would yell at people, yell along, and a couple of times she would like curse them. But I don't think she's actually not a witch. Like New Hampshire actually declared her not a witch in like 1998 or something. But she would declare it. So this one family, rich, wealthy family, she goes, "I hope your family all dies at a boating accident. I curse you to do that." and they die. So they're like, I want to punish this woman. She's a witch. You need to take her. So they send her to Massachusetts. Massachusetts takes her for like 10 years and she lives. This woman lives to like 78, 80, like, which again, in that time is insane amount of time. So they send her and they're just like, we can't keep her here. Like, she's a harmless old lady. You need to figure it out. Here, take her back. So New Hampshire takes her back. And New Hampshire's like, she's a witch. We trust this woman. So they build a house for her. They put her in the house. And she's like, you stay here. And then she dies because no one pays any attention to her. She just dies in the house of old age or lack of food or whatever it may be. But New Hampshire was so scared of this old lady that they put a horseshoe around her neck and staked her through the heart, which I talk about in the comics, like a vampire.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want her to raise up.
The design for Goody Cole, I actually can't totally remember if that was Travis's idea initially to do the leaves and wood or not. I know we went back and forth on it a little bit. We did change her origin story a little bit too, because I think initially she was just going to be a reincarnated like witch, but then we like added a couple more layers of complexity that it's what our idea or what Zeke's idea of like an evil witch would be. And so that added a little bit more like texture there. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think I love Mignola and I'm a huge Hellboy fan. I mean, they're all up on the shelf over there. So I'm sure some of that leaked through, and that just sort of felt right too, because we're dealing with sort of like, like folklore, and I think a lot of the same way that that Mike does on Hellboy. So yeah, if some inspiration comes in there, that's probably a good spot for it.
Future of GSP and the Summit Shared Universe.
And then I'm going to do this year a very nice hardcover. I'm going to get some punk bands to donate some music. We're going to do a very nice edition that fans who love this property really deserve. But I also love punk rock, and I love the punk rock style. I want someone to wear their Jingos or giant pants that can fit a book and have a Granite State Punk in their book. I want that as well. So I want to do both versions to honor punk rock. But the other aspect of it is issue 6 will be written this year. It's going to be called Girls. And it's going to focus on less of Zeke. And we're going to talk about the 4 women that you got introduced to in the first thing. So we're going to Ember, we're going to go a little Ember. We're going to do a little bit of Sandra. We're going to do a little bit of Cassandra. We're going to do a little bit of his daughter. We're going to introduce his daughter. And we're going to do our favorite Nazi, Princess Mayhem. We're going to do our favorite. So we're going to do a little bit of that, kind of show them and how they reflect. So Shared Universe, I noticed I'm a Kickstarter creator primarily. So I really wanted to make a superhero universe, grab some friends. Let's make some superheroes. Let's do it. I have a book called Upheaval. She's a really cool character that can control drones and tech. I want to build her, have some other friends, have us play, do this stuff. We're doing a different model than Marvel and DC. So what we're doing is we're going to have events, but our events are not going to be drawn out. They're not going to be spread out, and you're going to have to wait years for them. They're going to be books. Every year, we're going to give you an event book, and then everyone's going to have single issues. So it's a fun little exploration into superheroes and a different way to tell them. Because I love superhero books. I mean, I bought $60 worth of superhero books today.
Summit is a collective of creators who, like different curators, have different projects of superheroes and stuff like that. And we're part of a Discord channel. Well, actually, one of them said, "Hey, why don't we put our books together so to make something work?" At the time, they had 3 superheroes, and and some of them said, "Yeah, I'd be down. I'm down for it." And another one came in and said, "Hey, yeah, I want to be part of that." And so it became like it blew up in a way, because now there's like over 20 creators involved, in that adventure.
The value of reading comics.
Well, it's the same reason it's good to play with action figures and not leave them on your mantelpiece. But I mean, I think the cool thing, maybe what you're really asking is like, what's good about comics? Why are they important at all? And I think the answer is that it's still one of the mediums where creators have a lot of freedom, and that is freedom just to try kind of weird zany stuff. Readers seem to really like want creators to take risks in comics, and because of the logistics of comics being pretty cheap and to make compared to like a TV show or a movie or whatever. And I think because of that, because of like the quick turnaround time on comics and the cheap production costs, it allows people to take more risks. And that, I think that is really important, because going back to like shows and movies, I think we've kind of seen over the last 10 years now what type of shows and movies come out if nobody is willing to take a risk at all.
Mhm.
And so the fact that comics is still a place where people can take risks and try to make something really unique and interesting is really good, and that's really valuable.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's why you should read comics.
Well, because you never know when a story or even a panel will talk to you, can change you in some ways, because some things you never know what will speak to you, what will on a deeper level, I mean, but some story can have that power. Let's say for Granite State Punk, at core, that book was when Travis wrote it, he wanted to express some frustrations that he grew up with through that character Zeke. But last summer, a teenage girl came to my table and she said, "Look, I bought that book last year, and you have no idea how it moved me and how it spoke to me, because the character reflected on her." Sometimes you get that sort of things through when you're reading a book, because when you read, you're alone all by yourself, so it gets in your thoughts.
So as a kid growing up on drug and alcohol, my parents were doing cocaine on the regular. I had to be forced in my room. I had to pee in the corner because I was afraid to go out, because if I went out, I would get beat. Like, it was a bad world, and I didn't know right from wrong. But Peter Parker taught me right from wrong, because I had a comic book, because my grandmother got me a comic book subscription and that I could read it. You know, the Ninja Turtles taught me that, you know, you can be different and still be accepted. You know, there's people who will accept you for who you are and what they are. Going back to Peter again, because, you know, Spider-Man's probably my favorite. I learned, you know, that you're gonna F up in relationships, even if your intentions are the best, right? You're gonna mess up. You can love them so much, and sometimes it's not gonna be enough. You know, I learned the X-Men. I learned, you know, that Magneto, he makes sense to me. You know, I have a big Magneto shrine. I'm a huge Magneto fan. Magneto poster here. You can be doing all the things that are right, but you can be doing it the wrong way. Like, I learned all those things from comics. I learned right and wrong, what it is. And I think that that's super important in today's world. Also, comics as a whole is a relationship between the artist and the writer. There is no, for the most part, you know, I know Marvel and DC are taken by Hollywood and stuff, but we can tell our story and be intimate without anybody telling us we can make our story. If I was a filmmaker, I would write a script. I would then sell that script, and then I would lose all control of it. So my original vision's there, sure, but it's not what I want, where an artist is going to send me his interpretation of my word, not some actor's interpretation, not someone trying to tell him how I thought. He read my paper and he interpreted that to try to put my vision on a paper. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing that you can't get anywhere else. No medium does it better. No medium can do it faster.
Local comic shop spotlight. Today I wanted to highlight one of the most popular comic shops in the Granite State itself. If you're ever in the Rochester area, I recommend you check out Jetpack Comics and Games, located at 37 North Main Street, Rochester, in New Hampshire, or visit them on Instagram at Jetpack Comics. And that's our deep dive into Granite State Punk #1 with interviews from the creative team who made it. If you enjoyed this look behind the pages, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives, and ring the bell so you never miss a video. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. And don't forget to read the freaking comics.